So welcome to Lessons with Laura. I'm super excited today to have Rebecca Deng visiting from Michigan, from Holland, Michigan.
My name is Rebecca Deng. I'm from South Sudan originally, came to the U.S. in 2000. I'm 34 years old, and my purpose in life is really to find like-minded global community people that want to address issues of education, mainly girls' education and empowering them.
And we are going to discuss her book, her work as a peace builder, and any fun facts we should know about South Sudan. So I just really want to start with saying her book is a really important piece. I've read the whole book, and I love, in anthropology we call it the insider or the emic perspective, that you lived through this yourself. Can you just tell me a little bit about what motivated you to write this book?
Thank you so much, Laura. What They Meant for Evil is my book, came out last year. And I really wanted to share my book because I wanted to focus and bring the global community around the issue of brokenness or trauma or war, and to say that broken thing can be fixed. Children or women or any society that have been through a war or pandemic that we are in now, if people are intentional with their resources and their loving in a community, thing can be fixed and thing can be overcome. So it was being vulnerable, sharing all of my brokenness with the world in a hope that it will inspire somebody. So this is a history of a young girl that was born into a stable family that had 3 meals a day, and suddenly a war happened and you have to run now, and you are a refugee, you don't even know if you will make it, you face issues of child marriage and all of that, and then you are given a second chance again to come to United States, but you have to deal with new ideas of new culture, issues of race and difficulties, all the obstacles, but still because of the community that choose each other from all walk of life, from different background, helping me and empower me to be the woman I am today. So I just really want to share my book to show that women and girls, when they are given a chance and empowered, they can be a big asset to our world and can change things. And in the beginning, I talk about my grandmother that never been to school, but have a lot of wisdom and power in her community. I want people to understand women in the village, who they are, what are their roles. And their roles is that they are community leaders, they are providers, but then come to the area where now we are in a war, which I call a culture of trauma, where women are being diminished. And so I share my book basically to take people through a journey, because I feel sometimes when we talk of refugee, or for me as one of the lost girls of Sudan, as one of the 89, we focus on where we find them, but we don't look before. Who was this person before the war? What is her history? And I want to take people on that journey.
When we were on the phone, you told me that at first you really didn't want to write this book. Can you tell me a little bit more about the process that made you decide to write it?
Yes, at first I didn't want to write a book because it was going to let me relive memories that I was not comfortable living, which was a lie to myself, because that's what we do sometimes when we've been through traumatic event. It is easy to kind of block it out, but it is there. So I was afraid of going back, traveling back to those times. And then one day I just turned on a TV, and there was a news about children being at the U.S. border and children being separated from their families. And at that time, something just triggered in me, and I was just like seeing myself, my 5, 6 years old, leaving my village, being separated from my family. And that night, I pulled out my iPhone and I started writing. I describe in my book that I went to the Native American Museum in Washington, D.C., and have came upon a replica, which is a time bowl. It's called a time bowl replica. And they say on this time bowl replica, Native women will record what happened in their life, the event. a woman can have one time ball or several time ball, and they can choose to share with the community or with their friends what those time ball represent in their life, or they can choose to never share them, but when they die, they are buried with them. That was the first time I was like, okay, so I have been through all of this. I was orphaned at a young age. My children will never know what I have been through. So it was in Washington D.C. that I'm like, yeah, one day I will write a book. But it was watching the news that triggered me to just start writing. And when I start writing, I was like, okay, this story happened to Rebecca Deng. It's a Rebecca Deng experience, but this is a story of humanity, of how humanity can be so mean, by creating war or there's a pandemic or disaster, but humanity can be restored back. And it was at that time when I was like, okay, if I hold this story to myself, I'm being selfish, but if I share it openly, it might bless somebody's life if they're going through hardship, to say that, you know what, take it one day at a time. And or for young girls, like for me, I was almost given up for forced marriage at 14, 15, and being able to have the education I have now. Most of my education were done being a mother, and I have a master's degree, so it was a way to be like, you know what, I'm writing this for myself, for my family record, and for my children. But if it is going to make an impact in somebody's life, or let inspire another woman or a young girl or a community to be like, oh, you know what? When we think of refugee, or when we think of immigrant, or when we think of children coming from broken families, actually those children, they can be engineers, they can be doctors, they can be, if we have put resources together and love them well. So that was another reason I choose to share.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you to read a passage from your book in your own words. And can you tell us a little bit, you talked about a passage as you were going to Kakuma.
So where I'm going to read right now is when I was leaving a place called Nairus. So we came to Lokichokyo, which is at the border of Sudan back then, now South Sudan,
Right.
and Kenya. And it was at that time that we had to stay for a month there because we didn't know what our status was. They know that we are Sudanese that are now at the border of Kenya and Sudan, but then the UN have decided that now we are a refugee. So I'm going to read a passage of that first time of hearing the word refugee, because I had just left my village, knowing my name, knowing my tribe, and now my tribe doesn't matter, my name doesn't matter. Pretty soon I'm going to be given an identification card, which will represent me, but never have my name on it. A few days later, someone from the UN came and announced that we needed to move again because the Kenyan government did not want refugees at the border. We were moving deeper into their country to a place called Kakuma. What is Kakuma? I asked Uncle. A refugee camp, Uncle told me. What is a refugee camp? A place where they send refugees to live. Why are we going there? I asked. Because we are refugees, Uncle said. What are refugees? I asked. No more question, Becca, he said. I wonder again if he grew tired of answering my question about, because he did not know either. I have asked him a lot of questions of where are we going back to our village. So he is so tired of answering me. I know my name is Rebecca Ajun Deng Awil. I am not a refugee, I said under my breath. We were moving into a place, and just after I had found a delicious apple, which was a red berry, in the nearby bushes, once again we packed our few belongings and waited our turn for lorries to take us to a new home. It was December 1991. I was 7 years old now.
What is one thing that a first-year college student or college freshman could do to make an impact on the situation in South Sudan?
One thing I will encourage is to be reaching out to people like you that know what is going on, really doing research and being aware of the issues, and sharing, going on social media, talking about it, interview people. And second too, if there's an organization or an idea to be born to help those people in South Sudan or East Africa, do help with the fundraising. Right now, most of the organizations that I have mentioned are at the back of my book. My dream is that in the future there will be a center, education center focused on women empowerment. That is education, but education that is involve a lot of creativity, so that when girls are going through first grade to high school, and if for some reason some get pregnant or something like that, there's also a track where they can learn how to make basket, where they can learn entrepreneurial skill, where they can learn how to, how to act, or I just want to design a school that is more like hands-on.
So I just want to say thank you so much, because I know you're here in Colorado to rest, and you're taking time out to come and be with Lessons for Laura Mwalimu DeLuca to share your message. This book, What They Meant for Evil, is a really powerful book. How a lost girl of Sudan found healing, peace, and purpose in the midst of suffering. And I know it's a really personal journey to share that. And it takes a lot of energy to go back and revisit those memories for the betterment of others. So much gratitude to you for your work and your kindness to humanity, for sharing this story. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I just want to let you know that you are awesome, and you bringing two worlds together. You are part East African, part here, and you are teaching by example, giving example to your student, and your student are gonna learn more from you and from like my story and his story. You have wrote a book too about the lost girls.
I wrote a book with Leah Bassoff called Lost Girl Found, and we're both outsiders, so we bring a different perspective. But I think more and more right now, especially with Black Lives Matters going on in the U.S., I'm just realizing the importance of also having someone inside the culture telling their own story. And we worked with many Sudanese refugees. Many of them were working so many jobs that they didn't necessarily have the time to write, and it's really wonderful that you took so much time from your life to devote to this story that's a really important insider view of that experience.
Yeah, thank you. But I want to let you know too that it is because of people like you that go from one culture reaching out to the other culture, that you like, oh, my sister is already supporting me, is already interested in my culture, so I have to back her up and cheer from my perspective too, because it is when we come together that we learn best from each other. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Asante sana. How do I say thank you in Dinka?
Inchalech.
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 Thank you.
Could you sign my book?
Yes.
I would love it if you would sign my book. Thank you so much. What an honor.